Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 9th episode of the Novelty Show. My name is Lainey from gingerreadslainey, obviously, because this is my channel. But today we are talking about publishing friendships, and it's going to be all about how to make writer friends, how to keep them, and we'll be discussing all the ins and outs of friendships in the publishing world. Alexa, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I will go. I'm Alexa Dunn. I am a traditionally published young adult author. My debut, Brightly Burning, is Jane Eyre in Space. It's already out. My next one is The Stars We Steal, which is Jane Austen meets The Bachelor in space, because I have a theme. And that won't be out until 2020, The Joys of Publishing. And my channel is just Alexa Dunn. I talk about writing and publishing.
And I am Kat. My channel is Catty-tastic, where I make videos about books and writing, sometimes. Haven't done it in a little bit, but
we believe in you. You're fine.
So before we get started with the topic today, we first wanted to mention our Patreon, which is Novelty Show, patreon.com/Novelty Show. And we are currently getting ready to start our podcast, which we are really excited about. And we wanted to first start out the show with our Patreon question of the week, which is something we do for our second tiered Patreons.
$3 a month. Yeah.
Yeah. Where you can suggest discussion topics for us to talk about at the beginning of our shows. So our first ever Patreon question of the week is from Sarah Schiffling. And she said, I was wondering what your takes are on writing other things than working on a novel. Pure procrastination, or is there some merit? I quite enjoy writing short stories, and I'm thinking about submitting to anthologies. An opportunity to attach my name to some fiction writing, or a needless distraction?
Who wants to go first?
Well, I think especially if you enjoy writing short stories, then absolutely do that. I am very against the idea of waste time, you waste time writing something else. Like if you're working on something else, you're still improving your craft, you're learning from that, or you're enjoying it. Even if you don't end up submitting any short stories or getting any of those published, just working on them is incredibly valuable. So I think any kind of writing is good writing, especially if you enjoy it.
Lainey?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think any kind of writing will improve your writing overall. So, I mean, I do that already. Right now I'm working on 2 different projects at once. And I think that's been helping my writing a lot, because it's using 2 different parts of my brain, because one of them I am drafting and the other one I am revising. But I don't really have a lot of other hobbies besides reading and writing. So
mood. And watching television, which is a very good hobby. Same. I'm great at it.
I'm always alternating between one of those 3 things. So yeah, I definitely think if you really like short stories, that could really help with doing a different format completely from novel writing to short stories, because they're 2 different things. And I think short stories are very difficult. But
I'm incapable of writing short fiction. I can't even say I've tried. I've never even had an idea that would work. So if you can write short stories, especially submitting to anthologies and magazines. It's definitely a worthwhile pursuit. I will play slight devil's advocate, but only slight. Any writing is valuable writing, worthwhile writing. So for me, instead of short stories, if I'm not writing a novel, I'm doing marketing type writing, blog posts. That's writing. It's kind of journalistic. I don't actively write poetry, except I do when I go to Write Girl workshops. And I find that any kind of other writing gets me creative, period. It's all good, but it can be procrastination. So the trick for you is to figure out if it is. I do know some friends who have gotten so kind of locked up in the short story world and market, because it is its own market, that they never finish a novel. So it's ask yourself, am I procrastinating? And if you are, then go back to your novel. It's balance. It's all balance.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, because I have definitely done that before, where I will procrastinate working on one project and justify it by being at least I'm being productive somewhere else. But it does get to a point where it's like, okay, you're just making excuses. You're procrastinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, I don't feel a lot of guilt over writing anything. Like, as long as I'm writing something, like, I can at least feel good about that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we can move on from our question of the week. So this one.
Yeah, real quick, if any of our patrons out there, if anyone who wants to become a patron has more questions for us, we're going to try to answer a question like this at the beginning of every episode of this, as well as the podcast, which should be launching relatively soon.
So soon. So soon. And our patrons did vote on what our first podcast episode topic is going to be, and it's how the heck do you even write a novel? Yeah. I'm not surprised that was the one that got chosen. And we're actually, our first episode, we're calling episode 0. And so it is going to be kind of like, who the heck are we and why should you listen to us? So like, if you're watching the podcast, like the first episode will come after that kind of episode 0. Because we want people who've never seen our live show and never seen our YouTube channel to know who we are.
Yeah, I just saw Sarah is in the chat, so just want to say thank you, Sarah, for the question.
Yeah, you can watch it back when we're done. Just see the full answer.
Yeah, really good question. So let's move right into publishing friendships, and we'll start with making friends and why is it important to have writer friends?
Oh, so many reasons.
Yeah. Well, your IRL friends get tired of you talking about your goddamn book.
And you have to explain everything to them. Like, before you can tell them about the latest YA bookish drama, you have to give them like the backstory of all the
I was like trying to I was trying to explain this, like, I don't even know what it was, to my mom once, and I'm like, this just doesn't translate as well if I was just like to hop on and like text some of my writer friends about, did you just see X do X on Twitter?
There's a shorthand that you're able to use when talking about this stuff with writer friends. Like, they get you.
Yeah.
It's so nice to have someone who's very familiar with your hobby, no matter what your hobby is, or profession in this case. But like, if you're interested in something and you want to talk about it with people, you want to find people who are also interested in that thing. So you have that connection. And again, you have the context.
Yeah. And even like a more specific example, like rejection, like talking to another writer who's also dealing with rejection versus like a real life friend or like a family member. It's just not the same. Family members don't know what it feels like to be rejected from X amount of agents or whatever. But like the writer friend, they know how it feels. And
and they can also help talk you down when you're in a moment of like panic and stress. They can give their insight, they can like comfort you, and they know how to do it a little bit better than like an average person in your life, because again, they have the context of like the publishing industry and like why it all matters.
Yeah. And it's impossible to survive in this industry without really good writer friends. Because writing only gets harder the more you do it. And if you pursue any kind of publishing, like, you need people who get you to turn to in the darkest moments. And also just that usually writer friends are often also your critique partners. So there's like an intersection there. And we did a whole episode on critique partners, so you can watch that too. But not always. Your writer friends are not always critique partners, but often.
Yeah, I have a large net of writer friends that I don't think they've ever seen my work.
Same.
Yeah, but I still talk to them and talk about different things. But then I do have like the critique partners that I feel, and I guess all of them I feel really comfortable with, but I feel like critique partners have a little bit more of an added layer for me, at least, just because like we're really, really familiar with each other's work.
It's the intimacy of having read each other's writing. So what do we look for in writer friends? It's a great question. Like, sometimes it is the CP. It starts out as like, I need a critique partner, and then it builds into a friendship. But what do you guys look for in your writer friends, writer friendships?
Just someone who I can get along with and talk with, who I like connect with. It's hard to describe because it is like an intangible thing when you like see if you like gel with someone and you like are on the same page as them. But yeah, that's really what I look for. And again, like not all of my writer friends have also read my work, so it's like two kind of different creatures.
I think I mostly look for someone I can trust.
Oh, we're going to talk about trust. How important it is.
Big one.
Well, because exactly, I look for it's people you can trust, and thus it's kind of like-minded individuals. It's writers who write spiritually similar stuff. It doesn't have to be the same genre, but like they like a lot of the same kind of tropes as I do. That helps me for some reason, because like we've kind of vibe on the same level, but also we have the same or similar aspirations. That like I look for people who are as ambitious as I am, basically, who are aiming for the same thing so that we can exchange information and support each other through those steps. And usually when you have similar aspirations, it's easier to establish trust. But we'll talk about how thorny the publishing industry is, the writing industry is, and we hopefully don't scare everyone. Well, I mean, it's always hard making friends, and that's the thing. I think it's important to know that the writing world, and actually most worlds, most things since I've left high school are just like high school. You never leave high school, is what I'm here to make everyone sad about. And meaning it is a lot of ways as tenuous as making friendships are when you're younger, where it's feeling people out and dealing with a lot of social dynamics that can get really tricky.
Yeah, it just boils down to we're all people, and people come in many different like personalities, and yeah, it all boils, like aside from writing, it's just like how you connect with a person, if you can trust a person, and like if how competitive you might be in your relationship.
Yeah.
Another thing that we have on our outline here that we'll get into.
Competition and jealousy, yay!
That's like a normal thing with any friend. Like in high school, your friendships, like you might be competitive with friends in other ways, and that can also apply in the publishing industry.
Yeah, and really, anytime you're in a creative field, even when you don't want to, there's competition.
Yeah. We do have a couple questions here in the chat that kind of relate to what we're talking about right now, which is where exactly do you find writer friends, and have you met most of your writer friends online or in real life?
I mean, both of those, my answer is kind of similar. I've met most of my writer friends online, and where exactly I found them was back in the day, it was through blogs, but after that was like 2009, and then more recently it's been through YouTube and Twitter.
Yeah, same. Also found some people on Reddit. Reddit was a big place for me, kind of like the next generation of blogs, also still around. Twitter for sure. And then honestly, I'm going to say the same thing I said with critique partners, and people think I'm crazy, but it's fine. I slide into DMs sometimes. If I think someone's cool and I want to be their friend, I slid into your DMs, Kat. I did that. It's fine. After I met you, in fairness. So it's a combination of both.
And I was going to DM you as well. You just beat me to it.
And then Lainey, I attacked in person. Like I already knew I wanted to be her friend. And I waited until, I'm so creepy. I waited until we were at an event where it made sense to become friends.
Well, okay, I'm not going to lie. When I did the video where I shouted you out, I'm like, I kind of want to be her friend. So maybe this will like make her see like I'm real or something, like like so I'm here trying to be your friend.
We use YouTube to talk to each other. I don't know, but because it's just like anytime, sometimes you do have to be brave and you do have to put yourself out there, and sometimes you'll get rejected. I've definitely been kind of like tacitly rejected where it becomes clear, oh, they don't want to be my friend. That's sad, but it worked out in this case, so it's great.
Yeah, I think I find most of mine on Twitter and on YouTube through AuthorTube, basically. YouTube, not YouTube, Twitter, there's like a lot of different seasonal, I feel like, events that happen where it's like easier to find critique partners than other parts of the month. Like Pitch Wars, AMM, I think there's like writer chats that you can participate in where you can find people to talk to. CP Match is also a hashtag too, but I think we've talked about those a lot in our critique partner episode.
Do you guys find most of your friends from looking for critique partners, or just from writer friends in general. Because like I personally, like I've had some people reach out and be like, yeah, let's be critique partners. And I'm like, I'm not ready for that right now. But like, you know, maybe a friendship for right now and critique partners later kind of situation. Because I want my book to be complete before I am like sending it for critique.
Yeah, I have something like that going right now where we're both mentees and we're like, well, we want to exchange in the future, but we're both like really trying to work on our books right now. So it's just like not a good time to like swap or anything like that, but we still keep in touch every now and then. But we're still working on our books.
You bring up a good example, author mentor match. You making new friends via the mentees, and I've made new friends by running it. Like, meaning, that sounds so weird. But like, mentors have joined, and I just think they're kind of cool because we have a mentor Slack, and I'm like, I'm like, hey, let's chat more. So it's just kind of like being in spaces with other writers and like seeing someone who has a similar sense of humor as you, or they salt about the things that you want to salt about. So then you create a private chat. And it's just kind of like putting the feelers out. And what I usually do is it starts with kind of like a DM on like a safe platform, like it's a Twitter DM or it's in a Slack if there's a group Slack. And then if I want to have a deeper conversation with someone, I suggest Google Hangouts because that's where I do most of my chatting. And then friendships either grow organically or kind of fizzle from there. Because it's mostly online. It is mostly online that we chat to each other.
Do you guys have any in real life writer friends that you like? Alexa, you're in Los Angeles area. There's some down there.
Yeah, but I didn't make those IRL writer friends until I had my book deal. So specifically, I'm friends with a lot of the other people who debuted in 2018 because we started meeting up in person, which has been really great. And then I have a couple of friends through AMM, actually, go figure. But it's kind of, I happen to already have my deal at the point. So I think of them, it all as post-deal. So meaning I had no IRL writer friends before I got my agent and my book deal. All my friends were online at that point. But there's strategic meetings. Like sometimes it's like you have a pretty good online friendship, but then what seals it permanently is like hanging out at a con. Yeah. So I like to kind of combine those where it's like you're friends with someone for a year and then it's like, let's both try to go to the same fan con and we'll be roomies. Like I like to do that a lot.
Yeah, often online friendships will become IRL friendships because you're meeting at these cons or you're going on a writing retreat together or something like that.
And then you figure out, like, I think vibing in real life is important. It's not a deal breaker. And actually, sometimes meeting in real life can fizzle a friendship. And that's always a bummer when you just don't vibe in person. But most often, like, you meet in person and it's even better than online. And so you forge deeper connections and even more shorthand so that your online conversations are even... it deepens the friendship. So I like to meet in person.
Yeah. Well, let's move from writer friends and let's talk a little bit more about publishing acquaintances and author acquaintances. Because I mean, even if Kat and I mean, with BookTube, we've met a lot of authors and made publishing connections as well, just from a BookTube standpoint instead of like a writing standpoint. And Alexa, you too.
Which is a very interesting line to walk, because like they're not quite your peers, like not at this point, as like Lainey and I are unpublished, but they're like the people who like will hopefully one day be our peers. So it's a weird dynamic.
Well, and it never goes away, honestly. So I was aspiring for many years on the conference organizing side, and that's how I walk the line because I didn't have a YouTube channel at that point. But it's awkward, and the transition, even once you feel like you've made it, right? Like you get an agent and you get a book deal, that doesn't automatically convert all of those relationships into actual friendships. And so let's talk about kind of the difference between a friendship and an acquaintanceship. And there's value in both. Like there's nothing wrong with just being friendly with someone, but never getting close to them. And I do see writers who get real down on themselves because they have a really good interaction with an author they really like, for example, especially at a con or something. And then they think that they're friends, and then they're disappointed when they don't get the trappings of friendship from that person. Like they don't add them back on Twitter, or, you know, they don't text them if there's text involved. Or when it comes time for, like, say, blurbs, nothing happens. Like they don't come. It's getting complicated. But the point is, let's talk about acquaintances and networking.
Yeah, I guess I don't really think I've had an interaction like that before because I'm very self-aware of boundaries. And I think that's very, very important when you go to like these events to have to be aware of other people's boundaries as well as your own.
Yeah.
So I'm never like, what's the word? Like fishing for like bigger friends, like higher up on the tier of authors.
So you're
or
not
whatever.
a social climber, Lainey.
Not really. I mean, I just like, like you.
No. I hope I'm not. No, but there are people who do that. And we can talk about
definitely.
It. Yeah, and it's obvious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Lainey and Kat, like, because you've actually faced this more than I have because you've done so many book events. How do you approach having a conversation with an author? Like, how do you approach those boundaries?
I mean, I just treat them like a person, because as someone who has kind of been on the other side of, you know, viewers who watch my channel and want to be friends with me, and like sometimes they'll treat me like I'm like above them somehow, like, oh, like, Kat, I really want to be your friend, and I'm just like, but I'm not special. Like, why? I don't get it. Why do you want to find me? Like, I'm nobody. What are you talking about?
You're special to me. I was intimidated meeting you. I won't lie.
I was intimidated meeting you.
It's so weird. Publishing's weird.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing too. Like, a lot of times you will be like mutually kind of intimidated, but then like you start talking and you realize that you get along and you're like, okay, we're going to be friends.
Yeah. Lainey?
Yeah, I think I've always just been really professional with the author before I like try to have a deeper connection with them, even though I don't really have much deep connections with any authors besides you, Alexa, I feel like. But I have friendly acquaintances with other authors. And I feel like most of it is because of interactions on Twitter before I met them in real life. Because then they're like, oh, yeah, I've seen you on Twitter before. But yeah, I'm always just very cautious, like in any situation that I'm put in. I just don't want to step on toes. I don't want to expect something that's not going to be given to me, basically. Yeah, I'm just like a wallflower when it comes to like going to events with bigger names.
I am too. Like, I am very like reserved, and that's why I found it easiest. Like, I wouldn't really call a bunch of authors like I'm on like friends with them, but I am like friendly acquaintances.
Right.
And most of that is because I met them at bookish events when they hadn't debuted yet, or they were just a new debut, and like they were there like wanting to make friends and like talking to people. Like, you know, I wasn't trying to like make friends with like the Veronica Roths of the publishing industry. Like, no one who's like,
she's so nice though. We're not friends, but she's friendly. Yeah. I can report that.
Friends with her, but yeah, we're not at that level. But yeah, I found like I've like gotten closer with authors who were in the beginning stages, and also I feel like some of those like newer in their career authors tend to be more friendly toward the nobodies like me, who I'm not exactly a nobody because I have a YouTube channel, but like I'm not in the publishing world. I'm not like on their level.
That actually brings up something important that I think it'd be interesting to discuss. So we already touched on social climbing. It's the notion of nobodies versus somebodies and the social hierarchies that you do find. And first of all, like we might call ourselves nobodies, and I felt like a nobody so often. I still often do, but especially before. And that's imposter syndrome. That's kind of like feeling down on yourself, but like no one's actually a nobody. And I think that it can get really dangerous in the industry when some people do legit treat you like a nobody. And I would love to talk more about social climbing and snubs and kind of how to protect yourself when you feel rejected. Because let's talk about the sticky stuff in publishing friendships and relationships. Jealousy is coming.
Yeah, jealousy is coming. Again, I have kind of a weird situation because, well, I don't have like an agent or a book deal. I'm not on that level. Because of my YouTube channel, I do have some like clout in the publishing world. Like I do have it's kind of a reason for authors to be friendly toward me and not necessarily snub me. Which I haven't experienced too much of that. Like people generally have been quite nice to me. And I'm not sure how much of that is like a strategic thing, like because I have a YouTube channel and they don't want me to like give them a bashing review on my channel, or because like I'm just generally very friendly at events too, and I'm very friendly to them, and it's just like they're nice people. Like I can't tell how much of it is like strategic niceness.
Well, and nothing wrong with strategic niceness.
Yeah, no, as long as you're being nice.
You should be nice to everyone.
Yeah.
But it is true. Like you must feel sometimes like people are trying to use you though.
Sometimes, but also because I'm very aware of that, like I don't feel like I'm going to get used.
Yeah.
Like I'm very aware, and like I only will like do author interviews or whatever, even though I haven't done very many of those. Like if I genuinely want to. Since I've been doing like the convention thing for so many years, I feel like I'm more savvy about like if someone is trying to be my friend for a reason, or if like actually getting along, and like that's why they're being friendly.
Yeah, I don't think I'm big enough to be taken advantage of.
Give it time.
Yeah, I don't feel like I've like had like situations like that before where I'm like, I don't know about your intentions here. But are we talking about snubs? I feel like I've only been snubbed once.
Let's talk about snubs because it is actually fun. I think it's funny and fun.
Yeah, I was snubbed. It was not. It makes you feel really embarrassed. That's like basically just how I felt. And then I'm like, well, I'm never reading their books again, and I haven't. So
yeah. Well, and so we want to talk about the ugly stuff, because this episode is about like all the stuff you have to navigate socially in publishing. Like we called it friendships, but it's not just friendships. And yeah, I've been at a party where I felt like I shouldn't have been there, where everyone had a face. Like we all have faces, but like meaning I was looking around the room like I recognize every single person here and I am literally nobody. And I will never forget the people who look straight through me versus the people who actually talk to me like I was a human being and like I deserve to be in the room. And they're auto buys now, and I think they're the best people. And I tell everyone I know that this author is a kind human. So meaning like you can be on either side of that. Like if you're in those situations and you feel bad, you do just have to pick yourself up again, because it's just kind of the way it goes. And if you're on the other side, be kind to everyone always. Yeah. It doesn't matter who someone is. And also it shouldn't matter whether they end up somewhere great later, but they also might end up somewhere great later. So you shouldn't snub.
Yeah, publishing is such a small industry. Authors will become agents. Agents will become authors. Like that editorial assistant might become a best-selling author. Yeah, like, it really is to your best advantage to just be nice to everyone. I mean, like as from a strategic point, and also just from like a nice human point. Like just it doesn't hurt to like be friendly to people.
Yeah, when I started going to like more cons, like, and you kind of talked about how people like looked right through you, Alexa. Like when I go to cons,
still
like
do.
When I like go to a room or anything with like a bunch of people, I always think I'm like, be nice to everyone. And because I never ever want someone, and I know I can't always control this, but I try my best. I don't want anyone to say like as they walk away, like, oh man, that Ginger Reads Lady is a bitch. Like I never want like someone to think that. So like I'm always super nice. And I'm nice in general, I feel like, but I'm always polite and nice because I'm Midwest, everything. That's where I'm from. So, but I like can't stand people thinking I'm a bad person. So I'm always nice to someone. when they talk to me or when I'm talking to them. Like, I don't ever want to leave a bad taste in someone's mouth, because it is an industry that I want to be a part of. And I don't want someone to be like, in the future, being like, oh, well, I met her once and she was awful, so let's not publish her. So
yeah,
that's my mindset when I go to events.
Yeah, totally same for me. Also, like, as someone who worked in the service industry for like almost a decade, like working fast food and like as an Applebee's waitress, like I am very like aware of how people around me treat other people, especially like service staff. Like if you're at a convention and there's like a catering table, or you know, some assistant at a publishing company is like working the booth and they've been there all day, like it costs you nothing to not be rude to someone.
And I've been the person working a booth, so I'm always super nice to booth people because I've been there, and it's exhausting. Yeah. So, and I will say briefly, anxiety is real. Most writers have it, like a shocking number of us, and everyone's allowed to have an off day or an off moment. But this is why when you do go to public events, you have to psych yourself up before you go, because you have to do whatever you can to try not to create those awful moments for other people that could come back around as like, oh, well, you're a bitch. Not to scare everyone, but like that, like I do personally allow consideration for anxiety. Like if I know that an author, or I hear later that they have anxiety, I'll go, oh, well, maybe they weren't just being mean to me. But then I test subsequent meetings to tell whether or not they're actually a garbage human. But yeah. I really want to talk about social climbers from both directions, because you can be the victim of a social climber, and you need to be wary of these sorts of individuals. Like, meaning if you get an agent or a snazzy book deal and all of a sudden people who ignored you before are sliding into your DMs, they might be a social climber, very possible. But also don't be a social climber.
Yeah, the flip side of someone gets a big splashy book deal and they unfollow like their other like aspiring author friends.
We've all been there.
Splashy book deals.
Yeah.
So like they're not good enough to follow anymore.
Yeah. Friendship shouldn't be transactional, and I think that's the big takeaway, because some people approach it as such. We're depressing everyone. It's fine.
Do we want to talk about drama?
Of course. Let's start with a softball. Let's talk about the dicey area of reviewing friends / peers books, because it's not just friends, it's also anyone in your peer group, since we're talking about social dynamics. And I'm going to let the book reviewers start.
Well, it's weird.
And writers.
I've never considered myself a book reviewer. Like, I started my channel, my first like 100 videos were just about my own writing journey and like NaNoWriMo vlogs, until people saw my bookshelves behind me and were like, oh my God, do a bookshelf tour. And I was like, bookshelf tour, booktube, what's this? And like, I already had made like at least 50 videos before I discovered my first booktube video. And like, even before that, when I had an aspiring author blog, I didn't review books on it. I made a video back in like, I want to say 2013, that was called Negative Reviews, and like why I don't do negative reviews. Like, I've never considered myself a book reviewer. I just like talking about books that I love. And sometimes I have been critical about things. Like, I'll talk about what I love about a book, but also what I dislike about a book. But like for me, my channel has never been about giving book reviews. Like, I like sharing my opinions, but not necessarily critical reviews, because there is that weird line.
Well, I started with book reviews because there's some that I have definitely privated since really getting serious about writing, because I think I went a little too hard on certain books. And like, if you look at all of my top most popular videos, they're all have a negative twist to it. And I mean, that's what gets
negative.
Yep, that's what gets the clicks. And like, you know, to each their own. Some of them I probably won't private because I'm just like, they've been 4 or 5 years ago. Like at this point, like whatever. But I've definitely moved away from doing book reviews. I still kind of do wrap ups where I talk about the books that I've read, but I don't go super critical into YA books. I do read a lot of romance, and I do sometimes go a little more critical with the romance books that I read, but I feel like that's more safer for me because it's a different genre than what I write. They won't really be my peers when I become an author, just because we're in different genres completely. But when it comes to YA, I don't talk about them negatively very much. I do still rate books on Goodreads, but I don't rate anything lower than a 3 for YA, just because I don't want it to come back to bite me in the butt. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I know a lot of people say like, well, people should be able to take criticism, but like, I'm just a book reviewer. Like they're not like, that's completely different than like trying to become peers with these authors. Like I'm not going to critically review a peer's work. And there is I think that like I see this conversation a lot on AuthorTube and on BookTube being like, you know, you should be able to review them critically, but
sure,
no,
I don't have to be friends with you though.
Right. Like you have these connections and this is a way to burn bridges. And like, I don't want to burn any bridges in publishing, but that's a way to do it.
There is no rule to it. Like you can critically review books very negatively if you want. Like there is no rule, but at the end of the day, like we're all human beings, we're all people. And like if the author does happen to see your video, like they're not going to have a very great opinion of you. Like you're totally entitled to share your opinion. And yes, authors should be able to take critique, but like my stance on it is, but it doesn't have to come from me personally because of what I want out of my future career. Like I fully support people doing critical reviews, and we need reviewers. Reviews are for readers. They aren't for authors. And reviewing is just not something that I personally am passionate enough about that I feel like I need to share my opinion while also wanting kind of to be a peer with that person. So like, it's personally not something that I want to do, but critical reviews are insanely valuable and I love them. That's how I find all the good books to read. But I don't need to do it myself.
Especially with AuthorTube, like I would never read another AuthorTuber's book and like critically review it. Like I'll promote them, shout them out, and you know, make my viewers aware that their book exists, but I'm not going to go into like an in-depth critical review of their book when I also make AuthorTube videos. I'm also trying to get published.
Thank you, Lainey.
It's just in poor taste. It's just
it's like I remember when, so I'm friends with Sasha, who wrote Zenith, and when that came out, a lot of people were like, why aren't any of the big booktubers like critically reviewing Zenith? And what it boils down to is like, Sasha is my friend. Like I want to support her, and like I want to like, of course I'm gonna shout out like Sasha and Christine's and Alexa's books. Like I'm gonna shout out the books of my friends, but I'm not going to publicly say negative things about them because that could hurt my friend. Like I don't want to do that myself. Like if someone else wants to make a review, I'm not going to get like mad at them for negatively reviewing a friend's book. But like, of course I'm going to support my friends. Like, I want to be a good friend. I want to like shout out my friends' books, whether or not I've read them. Like if I haven't read them, like just talk about it in a book haul or whatever. But like, I it's so silly that people are like, why aren't you saying negative things about your friends' books? And it's like,
because you shouldn't. Like, so this brings us to the area of the obligation of reading your friends' books or not. I personally warn all of my friends that they don't have to read my book. I know not every writer feels this way, but I just feel so awkward about feeling like someone has to read my book. Though warning, I'll talk about it anyway, so you might as well. But and that's because like I come from fanfic. So I know that like you can be friends with someone but not be into their fic. So just for a really long time I've always had that expectation. It does get sticky. in professional friendships. Like, I have a ton of friends where I've not read their books, and I'm probably a terrible person, but I'm also afraid to read their books and not like them because I can't ever say anything. It's awkward. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just weird that like people expect you to critically review your friend's book on a public platform.
Yeah.
It'd be different if like you privately was talking to your friend. I mean, that seems like more of a critique partner relationship in my opinion, but why would I think it's kind of bold
And once
for
the book's
other viewers
out,
to
CP, you can't CP it once it's out, so there's nothing they can do.
Like, my critical opinion does nothing for my friend except possibly hurt them.
Yeah, it's rubbing salt in a wound. Because I bet you most of the time, the thing you could point out, they already know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awkward. So our policy clearly is not to critically review our friends' books.
My policy in general is not to critically review any books. Like, this is why I feel like my email must be on a list somewhere of like booktube reviewers, because I constantly get unsolicited emails from people saying like, will you review my book? And I'm like, I haven't done a book review video since 2015. Like, I haven't, the last like book talk that I did was for Carry On in 2015, which was like one of my favorite books. Yeah. So like, I don't know why people expect me to do reviews when I haven't done them in years. And also I only really talk about favorite books anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. But like my main thing, honestly, with my friends, if I haven't read their book, is if I don't read it, I get to forever operate on the assumption that they are an amazing writer. And it just makes it easier to be friends. And then hopefully, luckily, you pick up their book and it is actually amazing. Whew, that's always a relief.
That's a nervous-making thing that we can talk about, is like being friends with someone, and then when you exchange work or you read their book and you don't love it, can you still be friends with them?
Yes, it can get awkward though.
Yeah,
I just haven't had that. I haven't been in a situation like that before.
I don't think
I'm like lucky.
Yeah,
I feel like you have, Alexa.
I should probably not comment on this. It's none of my current friends, by the way. None of them have to worry. But I think we've all had that situation, possibly, or maybe I'm the only one that has, where this has happened to me in CP situations mostly, where I read something and I was like, ooh, don't love this. And then I just find the positive things. But like, I'm never going to promote that book to people. Like, I just can't in good faith, like, promote that book.
I feel like I'm also kind of the type that if I have a relationship with someone, I'm friends with them, and we finally decide to exchange things, and I was in a position where I'm like, I don't really like this. I feel like I'm more of the type, if I like the person, I'll find ways to like the writing. Like, yeah. So I'm not really worried about like coming across a situation like that. Just because I can't separate the author from the book. So I probably still like it because it's them and they're my friend.
If you like something or someone, you're usually more likely to like the thing they write as well.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you like each other because you have like similar interests. You like similar books or similar shows and movies. I don't think I've ever been in that situation either, where like I read a friend's book or a friend's writing and I hated it.
Y'all gotta read more. Just me.
I don't have that many writer friends, so I just haven't that specific situation. I'm sure it will happen as I, progress in the publishing industry and make more writer friends. But yeah, as of now, like every critique partner or friend that I've had, I haven't found their writing to be terrible. Like I've had feedback for them, but I've enjoyed all of my friends' books that I've read.
Switching subjects slightly, I would like to talk about jealousy.
Yeah.
I think this is a destroyer of friendships. And I think this is the number one thing that ruins friendships. Because I think something that comes up a lot when people talk about writer friendships is they talk about when friends stop talking to them when they got like an agent or a book deal. You hear people talk about like how, actually that's usually what you hear usually hear someone bitterly lamenting that that horrible person left them behind when they move forward. But I want to talk about the flip of that, as well as that thing, which is it can be just as awkward for the person who moves on, so to speak, to manage the jealous feelings of a friend who still hasn't gotten there. So I think we should talk about every facet of jealousy. I'm so excited.
I personally haven't experienced this too much. Like, I have felt a little bit like envious when I see people who are like, you know, getting amazing book deals or amazing agents, because I want that, but I don't know. I've been kind of invested in the publishing industry for like 10 years now. So I feel a little like disillusioned by that. Like, there's room for other people. Like, just because someone got a great book deal doesn't mean that in a year when I try to get a book deal, that's going to affect my chances at all.
Not being so level-headed. How dare you? No, and that's the attitude to have.
Like I said, it's been like 10 years since I've been like invested and interested in publishing. So I went through all my petty jealousy a while back. Like, I had those moments where it's like, these people don't deserve book deals, like blah, 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 blah. Especially when like all the big YouTubers, like Joey Graceffa and Zoella were like getting book deals. I was like, no booktuber has a book deal. This is wrong.
And you know, Zoella totally wrote that book. So
both of them had ghostwriters. Joey was a little more upfront about having a ghostwriter, but
yeah,
both of those books were ghostwritten. But yeah, I've when that was first happening, I was very jealous, and I was like, they don't deserve it. But the thing about publishing is that, like, it's not based on who deserves what. Like, bad people get amazing book deals and have amazing careers and have no consequences for their bad behavior. And the most hardworking, like, intelligent, kind authors can fall out of the publishing world because, like, their debut kind of flops, and like maybe their option doesn't get picked up, and like they just kind of fade away. It's not fair. It's not fair.
I'm so depressed.
I'm sorry.
Usually I'm the one pouring sadness over everything, so I'm glad it's you. Yes. And so I guess I should just tell my own story, because this has happened to me, which is why I wanted to talk about it. It's really, really hard when you are the one left behind, or you feel left behind, because I think it's all feelings and emotions, and the trick is to logic your way through it. And my critique partners, like, I've told this story a bunch, and they know I tell this story, and I love them, and we're all great. I had two really, really close critique partners who, it wasn't so bad with agents. I actually got my agent first. This is my first agent. Long story short, fast forward. After I'd left my agent and I had my second book, and my second book was doing horribly in queries when I had to go back out with it, two of my closest friends got 6-figure book deals within a week of each other. It was freaking hard. Like, you go through so many feelings where you're like, you feel like you're garbage. You feel like you're endlessly behind. You catastrophize. I did all of this, where you're like, their books will be out in 2 years and I'll still be writing another book because this one failed. At the time, I'd never written a book faster than like a year. So I was convinced that I was just going to be like hopelessly behind. And it's really easy in that situation. This is not what I did, because I luckily had been in publishing long enough to be pretty smart about it, mature about it. It's really easy to cut off those friends who have moved ahead of you, essentially, because everything they say, like every happiness that they share with you, hurts you. You know, when they tell you, oh, it's so awesome, I got my edit letter, or like, oh my gosh, do you want to see my cover? If you are unable to find joy in your friend's happiness, even if you don't have those things and you desperately want them, your friendship will end. It'll fall apart. And so very often when I hear the stories of people who will bemoan, like, oh, that social climbing, bitch, strong language in this podcast, like episode, left me behind when they got a book deal. It's not always that cut and dry, because I've now been on the other side. You can feel when your friends aren't happy for you. You can feel it. You know that they're jealous and they aren't processing it well. And it's easier for you. You don't want to rub salt in their wounds. So you also pull back. And I think it's mutual more often than people realize. And what I did with my friends is I basically had a come to Jesus talk with them where I was like, listen, I have feelings, but my feelings don't matter. Our friendship matters more than my feelings. I'm really happy for you. Please don't cut me out. And that's how we maintain the friendship. And the thing is, then I wrote Brightly Burning in 3 months, got an agent. And I got my book deal a year and a half after they did, but because publishing is stupid, my book was only 6 months behind one of their books being published. And so we still got to do the publishing thing together. Mm-hmm. So don't let jealousy destroy your friendships. But also same thing, when you do, sorry, lady, just briefly, when you do reach the next level, be careful about how you talk about it to friends who aren't there yet, because you can make them feel worse if you're oblivious to their feelings.
Yeah, I was just going to say that right now, most of my writer friends were all aspiring. So there's been no like outward jealousy feelings just because none of us have gotten an agent yet or anything like that. But I mean, hopefully nothing happens in the future.
Well, I wish you all success.
I feel like my situation is a little different because I kind of like intentionally took a step back from pursuing publication. Like I haven't even queried in like 8 years. So like, of course I don't have an agent. I haven't tried to get one in like 8 years. So that has also helped with my jealousy because I feel like, you know, maybe if I was querying and getting a ton of rejections, like my jealousy would be a lot more like at the forefront. But because of like where I am right now, like I'm not too worried because I'm like, well, things could still go well for me. Like it depends on like where both people are in like the course of their journeys. Because like right now, I don't feel like I'm in competition with a lot of people. I'm just writing my book and just trying to focus on that. So that has helped.
Yeah. I do think that contest season, that's like the only time I really felt feelings of jealousy, but they were never towards any of my friends. They were just towards other people. Yeah. Yep. But are people getting picked and you don't get picked? And that's, I mean, jealousy too. And it's okay to feel those feelings. But I just don't publicly do stuff.
And don't unleash that on the friend who is the target of those feelings. Like if your friend has like a great book deal and like they're going on like an overseas tour and they have like a great marketing thing. Like maybe if you want to be a little like salty about that, talk to another friend who is also on that same level and just like vent those feelings. But there's no reason to take it out on the friend who is doing well. Like, I don't know. I love my friends. Like, I love being supportive to them, regardless of like what's going on with me. So like, I'm always going to be like a ride or die, like I got your back kind of person. And if like I can't go to certain people to vent about certain things, that's okay. I'll find other people to like vent about those things.
Yeah. And I think that's just how you survive. You have to have that attitude. And you also need to have a lot of friends. And it is the safety in numbers. Like, it can actually be dangerous to have just one core group of friends, because then if you have feelings, you have no one to talk to. So I actually do encourage writers. It's the delicate balance of making new friends, especially when you reach different kind of levels of the writing journey and publishing journey, without ditching the old ones. Because sometimes it is most appropriate. Like, let's say you want to gripe about your editor. It's kind of a dick move to gripe about your editor to your friend who's still querying, because they're just going to be like, first world problems, I hate you. Yeah. So it's nice to have like gripe to the friend who also has problems with their editor without ditching your friend who's still querying. Still be there for them and be supportive and talk to them. And I will say it is a delicate balance, and sometimes you will fail. I failed because sometimes you'll just like get really in lockstep with a new shiny friend, and you do sometimes forget to talk to older friends. It's not great. This episode's about all my failures. Okay, so
I mean, it depends on like where that friend is at. Like, Alexa, if you want to complain about an editor to me, like, I'm fine with that. I'm not querying.
You don't have skin in the game. You're like, who?
Yeah. But I do want to add another thing about venting feelings of jealousy. It's best to do this privately. Like, don't do it on Twitter. Like, don't subtweet.
Don't subtweet. That's just a rule for life.
Yeah. Like, group chats are invaluable. Like,
utilize them.
Select group chats.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be trusted.
But yeah, it's not a good look to be, in general, publicly complaining about anything. Like, obviously, sometimes you have a bad day. Like, your car breaks down and you want to, your flight gets delayed. You want to rant about that online. But, like, in general, complaining publicly just isn't a good look. So it's best to keep that into private chats.
Yeah. Don't air your social dirty laundry anywhere.
And subtweet other people.
Oh.
And so what happens when one of your friends is doing that? One of your friends is being the asshole. They're venting stuff online. Do you approach them? How do you talk them down? Do you just go in another group chat and talk to your other friends about that?
Some people can't be saved, Kat. Well, and so that actually brings up a really great point, Kat. Sometimes you'll discover that you are simply not compatible in the sense that an individual you thought was a friend or like well enough isn't safe. And it's the trust thing again. They can be a perfectly lovely person, but if they have poor boundaries when it comes to Twitter or gossip, sometimes that just becomes a person that you don't confide in and private chat with quite as much or salt with quite as much, because you don't want your shit ending up on Twitter or screenshotted. Screenshotting private conversations is a violation and I hate it. And there's some people who love to do it and we're not friends. Carefully choose your friends. But if you think your friend can be saved, yeah, say, hey, maybe don't subtweet that, but sometimes you just have to step away. And then if a friend is being an asshole privately, I believe in saying something, because I've had something said to me and I've had to say things to other people, and it's never malicious, meaning I make a lot of self-deprecating jokes, and some of my self-deprecating jokes were making a different friend feel really shitty about herself writing-wise. And I was so glad that she told me. It didn't even occur to me. It's like, oh, I completely get why that was making her feel bad. And I'm glad she told me. And if I have a friend doing that, I'm going to say something to them too, because that's how you're a mature adult and you salvage a friendship. Yeah. Like, hey, friend, complaining about your $1 million book deal makes me hate my life. Like, whatever.
And people just do need to be reminded of that, like, especially if you're, I mean, I'm obviously not in this position, but if you're like a young author who just got $1 million book deal,
and you're
like complaining about something like that, like, you might not even be aware of what your complaining is doing to your friend who is like querying their third book and getting rejection after rejection. Like,
or simply they got a $20,000 book deal, and they're not even getting marketing, and you're a lead title.
One of the authors is complaining, like, they're only sending me on a 12-city tour.
How dare!
I wish I had those problems.
Right? Those are legit first world author problems.
Which isn't to say that you can't complain about that stuff, but it's just like, choose your audience.
Yes, but then my caution forever, I know I've said it before, but I just want to say it again. If you make new friends that you can complain about your $1 million book deal to, don't abandon your other friends. If you do, you will be talked about.
But also, what are you complaining about if you have $1 million book deal?
I don't know. But here, I mean, the thing is, though, you're always going to have problems. Just the problems are going to be relative. And there is value in always expanding your peer group. I advocate expanding your peer group without like cutting off old friends. There's a balance. Mm-hmm. Old friends, like, you know what I mean?
And of course, it's natural to drift apart from some people.
It does happen. Yeah.
Like some of my early critique partners, I'm not very close to anymore, just because like over the last 8 years, we've kind of drifted apart. Like I stopped pursuing publication for a while. And like it does happen. It just be wary of like cutting people off because you think you're better than them or because you think they're like not on your level anymore. Because you don't know what could happen. Like you might be complaining about your 1 million book deal and then they turn around and get a $3 million book deal. That doesn't happen, but
it does actually. Let's cry. But it could be that they get a deal, maybe not $1 million, but they become a bestseller and you don't. You never know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
General consensus is just be nice. Be a nice person.
Be a gracious human being.
Yeah, it doesn't
to everyone, including your publishing team.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because you don't know if the intern is going to be a full-fledged editor in a couple years, and the one who's acquiring books, and they remember that you were a real dick to them back when they were an intern.
Well, plus publicity, marketing, they have a say in what books get acquired. You actually have to get the entire publishing team to agree to buy your book. So if you're an ass to marketing, why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
That's my thinking. Don't be a jerk.
Yep.
We do have one last question that we kind of touched on already, but I just want to say it like how you made friends in the writing and publishing community. We talked about that in the beginning. Just like YouTube and Twitter is how most of us found our friends that we have now. So
it's just putting yourself out there in terms of the actual how. It's daring to start a private chat if you think that you have something in common. It's sliding into DMs. Or in person. It's like, you know, people that you kind of know online will be at the same event. It's meeting up for coffee, and it's just kind of letting things be as organic as possible while also putting yourself out there a little.
And I would also encourage people to not pay too much attention to how many followers or subscribers another person has, because that does not matter at all. Yeah. Like I follow people on, like some of the people I follow on Twitter have like 10 followers. Like numbers like that don't really matter. Like it's about the person. Don't just try to make friends with people who have like big numbers, and don't avoid people who have small numbers just because they have small numbers. Like that they could grow. That could still be an invaluable relationship. Like
a cool person is a cool person.
Yeah. Regardless of how many subscribers they have. Like some of my like closer like booktube friends don't even really make booktube videos anymore, and they have like smaller channels. But I like first met them through booktube, and like they're really cool people, and I like being friends with them, even if they don't have the numbers.
And I'd say I think the true friendships that really last are the ones where you have things in common that aren't just writing. Writing is your unifying thing, or YouTube in this case, but there's other stuff there. And that's what kind of keeps you friends through all of the different kind of life transitions and such. And it's okay if writing is your only thing and then one of you stops being a writer or what have you, but it's always good to have other things in your friendship.
Should that be?
I think that's, a close? Yeah. So our next episode will be in 2 weeks, our live chat. It'll be on Kat's channel, right? Matt. Yeah, we don't have a topic. We're going to put something on our Patreon, and you guys get to vote.
Yeah.
You can also suggest topics on our Patreon. So.
Yeah.
And voting in polls is just our $1 tier. So
yeah,
it's not.
Suggesting is $3. Yeah.
Our Patreon is pretty basic. We have a $1 tier and a $3
Yeah.
tier.
We're not hosing any of you for money. We're actually shocked so many of you want to support us, and we're so thankful.
Yeah, thank you guys so much to those of you who have checked out our Patreon. And yeah, we should be putting up a poll relatively soon about what in 2 weeks, our next like live show episode will be. And as we announced at the beginning of this episode, we will be launching our podcast very soon, and we have that first episode has already been selected from a poll. So the link is down below.
The link's in the description.
I think that's everything.
I think that's everything.
Thank you for joining us. This was fun.
Thank you, everybody, and be nice.
Be nice. Don't be an asshole.
Life motto. Bye.
Bye.